Welcome to X1T Gaming, and together we are going to revolutionize the gaming industry. There was no problem with your sound. That was me. All me. I forgot to plug in my headset. I'm really glad I looked back up there. Okay, so as I was saying, I'm actually extremely nervous about our 90-day countdown because we are already on day 9 to get our Pachinko game, and I feel like I haven't accomplished anything. I haven't accomplished anything in 9 days. So yeah, I'm gonna have to I don't know, do some of these work while um on my own time, I guess, instead of just doing it all here. And yeah, so we're gonna continue on with these videos. Hopefully, I can figure this out and understand what the video is like all about. The guy goes a little bit too fast for me. My brain doesn't work that fast. But yeah, so we'll just we'll go and see what we can do. The one that we're looking for now is select and transform. That could be a little bit exciting. I think that's going to be more to what we want, and hopefully we could figure out these transform units and these scale units to make sure that they're the same. And when I mean the same, like if we create another circle, how are we going to be able to use those units to be equal and that they're going to be the same size rather than different? Okay, let's get to it. Select and transform. Here we go.
Selecting objects in Blender is quite simple. We already went over it in the viewport navigation video, but to quickly review, left-click an object to select it, and left-click empty space to deselect. But there are other selection tools as well. You can press A, for example, to select all, and Alt-A to deselect all. However, what if I want to select multiple objects, but not all of them? Well, for that there is the Select Box tool. This is turned on by default, and with it selected from the Quick Tools menu, you can left-click drag to select multiple objects at once. To deselect multiple objects at once, simply Control-click drag in the same way. You can also enable the box select tool with the B hotkey, but in that mode you'll be using middle-click drag to deselect objects. An alternative to the select box is to press C for circle select, which acts more like a selection brush and only extends selection by default. You can, however, still use middle mouse drag to deselect while in circle select mode. Another way to select multiple objects is by simply holding Shift and left-clicking objects individually. To deselect using this method, simply Shift left-click the object again until it's no longer highlighted. You may notice that while you Shift left-click these objects, the most recently selected one is always highlighted in a slightly brighter orange outline. This denotes which object is the active object. The active object is the object whose properties will appear in the Properties editor. Now, just a quick tip. If you have objects or geometry obscured by other objects or geometry, it may be difficult to select them. To help with this, I recommend using wireframe mode, located here, to see through your objects. This makes things easier to select and also allows for selection tools like box and circle select to include otherwise obstructed objects or geometry. Now, it's important to know that each of these selection tools can be used for almost every context in Blender, including edit mode, pose mode, and many of the editors. However, in some editors you will be required to press B before entering box selection mode, such as the outliner. You may have also noticed a select menu in the top left of the viewport. If you open this menu, you'll notice several selection options laid out for you, as well as some viewport-specific selection options, such as Select All by Type, Select Active Camera, Select Linked, and more. Feel free to try these out yourself, but it's important to know that Select More/Less only works in edit mode, which we'll get into in a separate video. Now that we know how to select objects, let's start transforming them. Transformation refers to moving things, rotating things, or scaling things. So, let's say I want to push or pull my cube to a different location. This would be classified as moving the cube or translating the cube. I can open the Quick Tools menu and select the Move tool. You'll notice 3 colored arrows and 3 colored squares appearing on your selected object. This will allow me to click and drag any of the arrows to move the selected object along that axis. If you select any one of the 3 squares, it will move the object along 2 axes, excluding the axis of its corresponding color. For example, the blue square excludes the blue z-axis movement, but moves your object along the x and y axes simultaneously. But you can also left-click drag anywhere in the viewport to move the object along your viewing plane. Now, in case you change your mind about moving your object after you've already started dragging it, simply right-click before letting go of your left mouse button. This will work for all transformations. For hotkey users, you can press G as in grab to initiate the move along your viewing plane. You can then press X, Y, or Z to move it along a specific axis like the colored arrows did. Or you can hold Shift and press X, Y, or Z to move it along the other 2 axes like the colored squares did. You can right-click at any time to cancel the move, or left-click to apply the new location to your object. Fun fact, if you initiate any transformation with the mouse click instead of the hotkey, you can still use the X, Y, or Z hotkeys to perform similar axis-specific constraints on your transformation before you release your left mouse button. You can also switch your transformation entirely to a different one, such as rotation or scale, with their respective hotkeys. Please read the display at the bottom of your window while dragging your object around for more information. To reset the location of your object back to its origin point, simply press Alt-G. Now, what if we want to tip our cube over or roll it around? In order to do that, we need to rotate our cube. Let's check our quick menus for that. Aha! Yes, it seems we do have a rotate tool here as well. This will display a gizmo over the selected object or objects, showing each rotational axis. Just like the Move tool, you can left-click drag any of the colored rings to rotate along a single axis. But you'll notice there are 2 new areas, the outer white ring and the inner sphere inside of the colored rings, which you'll notice if you hover over it. The outer white ring can be used to rotate the object along your viewing vector. Imagine your eyes drilling a hole into the center of the object and spinning the object around that axis of rotation. The inner sphere is what you see when you hover over the space in between the colored rings. This can be left-click dragged to enter a free rotation mode, which opens all 3 axes to rotation, kind of like a trackball on a trackball mouse. This is my favorite mode of rotation as it's the most flexible. For hotkey users, simply press R as in rotate to initiate the rotation along your viewing vector. You can then, once again, press X, Y, or Z to rotate along the specific axis like the colored rings did. But you can also hit R again to initiate a free rotation like the inner sphere trackball did. And again, you can right-click at any time to cancel the rotation or left-click to apply the new rotation to your object. To reset your object's rotation at any time, simply press Alt-R. Now, let's say we want to make our cube much bigger or much smaller, which can be the difference between, say, a tissue box and a house. This would be known as scaling our cube. So let's go check our Quick Tools menu again, and yes, a Scale tool. Selecting this Scale tool displays a gizmo very similar to the Move tool, except instead of colored arrows, it's like colored arrows with cubes of cheese stuck on the tips of them. Cheese. These work exactly the way you might expect. Simply left-click drag any of the colored axes to scale the object along that particular direction, big or small. You can also left-click drag the colored squares to exclude one axis from the scaling process. But what if you want to scale the entire object evenly? Just like moving, you simply left-click drag anywhere in the viewport. For hotkey users, press the S key as in scale to initiate the size change evenly for all axes. Press X, Y, or Z to scale along only a single axis, just like the colored arrows with cheese on them did, or press Shift X, Y, or Z to exclude an axis from the scaling, just like the colored squares did. You can right-click at any time to cancel the resizing, or left-click to apply the new size of your object. To reset the scale of your object back to its original scale, simply press Alt-S. Now, you may have noticed that during the rotation and scale procedures, there was a definitive center or pivot to the transformations. This is usually what the orange dot on your object signifies. However, what if you don't want to rotate or scale based on the object's pivot point? What if you want to rotate from the world origin or scale upwards relative to the floor level? That's where the 3D cursor comes in. This red and white circle is called the 3D cursor. It can act as the pivot point of any object as long as you click this drop-down menu here and select 3D cursor. Try it out with rotation and scale modes. You can move the 3D cursor throughout your scene by selecting the 3D cursor tool in the quick tool menu and left-click dragging anywhere in your scene or pressing shift right-click. You can change the pivot point back to the default median point at any time with the same menu as before. The 3D cursor can also be used for moving your object. I personally love this feature for quick moving your object to a specific point. Simply move your 3D cursor to where you want your object to go. Then go to Object, Snap, Selection to Cursor. For hotkey users, you can simply press Shift right-click and then Shift S and use the pie menu to select Selection to Cursor. Just a friendly reminder, if you ever need to recenter your 3D cursor, Cursor to World Origin is also in the same Snap menu. Okay, now let's say I've run into the issue where I've rotated my object, but now I can't move the object along its own upwards axis. I'm stuck moving directly up, and that's not helpful. Don't worry, all you have to do is change this drop-down menu up here from global to local. This will change all gizmos to display the object's local axes instead of the global axes for all transformations. For hotkey users, you can access local axes simply by pressing X, Y, or Z twice instead of once after initiating your transformation. Another helpful tip for transforming your objects is to hold Shift when trying to be more accurate. Holding Shift while moving, rotating, or scaling your object will reduce the sensitivity of your cursor affecting the transformation values. In other words, it'll change slower as you move your cursor, giving you more nuanced control over the end result. In fact, holding Shift will achieve the same effect for cursor-dependent values in most other editors as well. For example, dragging a number along a slider. Alright, but what if I have a bunch of boxes that need to be perfectly aligned? Eyeballing it isn't very practical or helpful. This is where you can use the snapping options located at the top here. This magnet icon toggles snapping on and off, but you can also press Shift-Tab. The drop-down menu to the right of it allows you to snap to increments, vertices, faces, volumes, or edges. This way, you can align your boxes perfectly to each other without relying on guesswork. Selection and transformation are the foundation of manipulating your 3D scene in Blender.
So, I think I got all of that. I think so. That was it. That was cool and informative. I felt like I already knew a lot of that stuff, so I was able to kind of like keep up to it. The hotkeys were pretty interesting, but they didn't say. Yeah, with that problem that I was having before. Yeah. Because like I feel like what the scale method is not scale to the world, it's scale to the object. And so if I create a new object, so if I just go create, what is it? I think it's here. If we go here, so we got that, a cube 1. But if you see these scales, it's basically to that size. I would like it that, yeah, and if I move this, it just moves its location. So I try to scale this like to 2. right? But then if I try to do this one, it's not really doing the thing I want it to. Yeah, so this is the one where you can see, is it that one? No, it's this one. So you can select easier the objects. Yeah. Okay, let's delete that one. This is weird because they have like measurements too, so it doesn't make sense to me. Oh, okay, that's like 130. Oh, yeah, I'll figure it out. Let's do add and delete. This is a short video, and then maybe we'll do one more video after that, and then we will do. It'll take a couple days for the introduction. We'll do one more day. Maybe I'll finish.
To add an object in Blender, it's really quite simple. Let's say we want to add another mesh. Maybe a torus, for example, or a donut. Simply go to the Add menu in the top left, go to Mesh, and select Torus. For hotkey users, you can simply press Shift-A to open your Add menu. You'll notice that the new mesh spawns where the 3D cursor is. This is an important feature of the 3D cursor. I'm sure you've noticed you can add things other than toruses. Inside the Mesh menu alone, you can see all of these primitives here. Most of them are self-explanatory, but you might be curious about what this monkey option is. The monkey is the head of a character called Suzanne. Suzanne is Blender's alternative to more common test models such as the Utah Teapot and the Stanford Bunny. As a low polygon model of only 500 faces, Suzanne is often used as a quick and easy way to test material, animation, rigs, texture, and lighting setups. Fun fact, the largest Blender contest, which takes place at the Blender conference every year, gives out an award called the Suzanne Award. To delete an object, there are 3 ways to do it. Make sure you have the correct object or objects selected, then go to Object, Delete. For hotkey users, you can press X or the Delete key. However, if you press X, you'll get a confirmation message. To confirm, simply left-click or press D. These delete functions also extend to almost every other editor where you can delete things. But it's important to know that the deletion menu in edit mode, for example, can look very different. Instead of a simple confirmation menu, deleting things in edit mode will bring up another menu, which will ask you for more information. For example, you can choose to delete the vertices, the edges, or the faces that you have selected, and each one will do something slightly different. If you delete vertices, it will also delete all connecting edges and faces of the vertices you selected. If you delete edges, it will also delete any faces formed by those edges, but it will not delete any vertices that also share another existing edge. And if you delete faces, it will also delete all edges and vertices within your selection, but not delete any edges or vertices along the boundary of your selection. Deleting only edges and faces will leave your vertices intact throughout your selection, even if they are floating in mid-air. Deleting only faces will leave you all of your edges intact throughout your selection, even if they're floating in mid-air. Dissolve vertices, edges, and faces are operators that try to combine the geometry in a way to act like your selection never existed. It will not always work, but can be very handy for removing loop cuts or extra subdivisions. Edge collapse will collapse all vertices along the boundary of your selection, caving in the geometry where your selection once was. Edge loops will functionally do the opposite of a mesh extrusion. it will reduce your selection geometry down to the next edge loop available. Edit mode has the most complex deletion options available, so while other modes and editors may have similar deletion options, they should be pretty self-explanatory if you can understand these.
Okay, I missed how he got that editor.
X or the delete key. However, if you press X, you'll get a confirmation message. To confirm, simply left click or press D. These delete functions also extend to almost every other editor where you can delete things. But it's important to know that the deletion menu in edit mode, for example, can look very different. Instead of a simple confirmation menu, deleting things in edit mode will bring up another menu, which will ask you for more information. For example, you can choose to delete the vertices, the edges, or the faces that you have selected, and
Okay,
each
so
one
this
will
is
do
an
something
edit mode.
slightly
I don't even know
different.
what edit mode is.
If
Oh, probably here. There we go. There's edit mode. Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, that's interesting. That is pretty cool. That's kind of like what I wanted, I think. If I just move this, we'll scale this one. Like, oh, we don't want. Let's go to. Wait. Yeah, we just want it like that. And if I do this. Okay, so we could actually change these shapes around. What that is. I'm just playing around. I'm just playing around. Let's just go all the way back. Okay, so that's that edit mode right there. So object mode, edit mode, sculpt mode, texture, vertex. Okay, so these are some stuff that's like actually could be beneficial. Get more detail stuff. I'm starting to see how people like Blender more than Unity, or like how much easier it can be for designing objects. Okay, let's watch one more video.
if you delete vertices, it will also
Okay.
delete
Collections. Going to the collections. Yeah, because there's like a lot of stuff to learn. I'll probably try to learn it on my own time. We've got modeling, shading, texturing, lighting, rendering, rigging, animation, and sculpting. Maybe modeling and sculpting would be kind of. I don't know. Let's take modeling first for sure, to try to get. This thing going for Pachinko.
In this video, we're going to explain collections in Blender. To do that, we're going to try and separate our scene into two groups, one for characters and one for background objects. Collections are similar to what you might call layers or groups in other software. Each collection in your scene can hold objects of any kind for the purposes of organization and/or rendering. You can also have collections within collections for further organization. In fact, that's what's already being done, as the scene collection acts as the parent collection for all collections in a scene, as you can see here. Now, to start us off, let's make a scene that makes sense for our purposes. What we want to do is separate our scene into character objects and background objects. I'm going to go ahead and scale this cube up until we're inside of it. This will be our environment or background. Then I'm going to add a new object, monkey. This monkey, also known as Suzanne, will act as our character. If you take a look at the outliner, you can see that our monkey has already been added to our existing collection. Whenever you add objects in the 3D viewport, keep in mind that they will be added to whatever collection you have selected at the time. In case you can't see any objects in your outliner, your collection may be collapsed down to a single line. This is done by clicking this arrow on the left of the collection name. Simply click this arrow again to expand it. For hotkey users, you can press the plus and minus keys on the number pad. So let's try and move our character into a character collection. Well, for that, there are a few ways to do it. But one of the quickest ways is to simply select the object and right-click for a context menu. Under this menu, you'll see the Move to Collection option. If you click that, you'll be presented with a few choices. If we choose Scene Collection, this will bring our monkey out of its current collection. This is not what we want, and the only existing collection we see in this list is the one the monkey is already in. What we want is the New Collection option. So let's go ahead and click that and name our new collection Character. Quick tip, to confirm the name after typing, simply hit Enter twice. Now, if you look at our outliner, you can see that our monkey is in our character collection. For hotkey users, you can press M, as in move, to bring the same Move to Collection menu for whatever object or objects you have selected. Another way you can add an object to a new collection is to create an empty collection first. To do this, simply right-click any empty space in the outliner and click New. This will create a new collection within the Scene collection. If, instead of empty space, you right-click a collection name, it will create a new collection within the collection you right-clicked. For hotkey users, you can simply hover over the outliner and press C to create a new collection in the Scene collection. And if you happen to have a collection already selected, your new collection will appear under the selected collection. Fun fact, you can create as many collections as you like. You can rename collections at any time by double-clicking or control-clicking their names in the outliner. So let's go ahead and rename our new collection as BG, or Background. We can then move our cube, which is our background object, to our background collection in the viewport with the same Move to Collection menu, or the M hotkey, and then selecting the now existing background collection from the menu. Or we can use the outliner and simply left-click drag the object to the background collection. Now that we have our character object and background object in their respective collections, you can check and uncheck each collection to toggle their visibility. This will turn them off during render as well for the view layer you have selected. To quickly show you how view layers work with collections, I will create a new view layer up here. As you can see, the checked or unchecked state of each collection is unique to each view layer. But what about our light and camera objects? Let's say we want to have these objects in both the background and character collections so that they are visible whenever we isolate either one. However, when we try to move our objects to more than one collection, it doesn't work. While it is possible to link objects to more than one collection using the Shift-M hotkey, a preferable way is to use collections within collections. Let's take a look at how that might work. First thing I'm going to do is rename our collection to car/BG.
How is he renaming it? Oh, you press Control and left click. Is that it?
More than one collection using the Shift-M hotkey, a preferable way is to use collections within collections. Let's take a look at how that might work. First thing I'm going to do is rename our collection to car/.
So he clicks on it. What the heck? I don't even know how to rename it. He's going too fast.
create a new collection within the collection you right-clicked. For hotkey users, you can simply hover over the outliner and press C to create a new collection in the scene collection. And if you happen to have a collection already selected, your new collection will appear under the selected collection. Fun fact, you can create as many collections as you like. You can rename collections at any time by double-clicking or control-clicking their names in the outliner. So let's go ahead and rename our new collection as BG.
So we just want to do double clicking. BG. Okay. I'm too slow for this. Okay, I think we're gonna call that a day for today. So we're still learning some new stuff, learning how to put the collections there. This dude speaks way too fast. Yeah, but it is what it is. It is what it is. But yes, thanks for watching. We will come back tomorrow at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we'll continue on with this. I might have a little bit more of the videos down and show you just the basics, because this is like a lot of like detailed stuff that I'm like, I don't really feel like I need to know this yet, and I don't want to make a career out of Blender. But then who knows, maybe I will make a career out of Blender. Maybe if once I figure this out, I'll be better at modeling, and then I'll just model stuff instead of code stuff. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so you guys have a good one. I'll see you in the next video.